giant desert figures, times of origin and meaning of these giant figures, the largest 167 feet long, smallest 95 feet, remains a mystery. There are 3 figures, 2 of animals and a coiled serpent, and some interesting lines. Entering the site of the Blythe Intaglios, giant figures made on the desert floor by ancient man. Please help protect them by keeping all vehicles on the established roadway. Thank you. Bureau of Land Management, Yuma District Office. Hi, in this episode, I want to share an incredible discovery I made after my camping trip to the Hauser geobeds in the Colorado desert. So I posted a video with the UFO photos I took while I was out there, and as soon as I got home after that trip, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that if I did a search for Blythe UFOs, that something would come up, because based on just the feeling out there and the UFO photos, I knew that I couldn't be the only one to have experienced something strange out there. So I did the search, and that is how I discovered the Blythe Intaglios, and they're only like an hour away from me. So the definition of an intaglio is an engraving or incised figure in stone or other hard material depressed below the surface so that an impression from the design yields an image in relief. And in the case of the Colorado Desert Intaglios, they're giant figures and anthropomorphic creatures that were made on the desert ground by moving aside the dark-colored rocks, and they're really a lot of dark-colored rocks because of the desert varnish that gets on them. And when you move them aside and expose the desert floor, it's a light surface, and things don't really grow on that exposed surface like that. And, you know, the wind can blow, there's sandstorms, and all kinds of weather can happen, and the rocks will stay in place. So that's what the intaglios are. They're also called geoglyphs, and they're things that really are best seen from above. And that's when they were discovered, was back in the 30s, by someone flying over the top and seeing them. So nobody knows how old they are or who made them, but there are a few theories that we can definitely go over. I want to share the pictures that I took of when I went. There were 2 sets of main intaglios, and I have the first time that I went, there was like some synchronicity involved, actually. So the UFO camping trip photos were dated March 15th, 2018. And I know that I did the search for, the Blythe UFOs and discovered the Blythe Intaglios like a week after, no more than a week after I got home and did the search. So I already had plans to go to the Joshua Tree, and I didn't actually make my first trip to the Intaglios until September 19th, 2018. And so anyways, then on May 5th, 2018, so I looked and did the search. My UFO photos were dated March 15th, 2018. And then on May 5th, 2018, that's less than a month after discovering it on my own, Ancient Aliens aired this episode called The Desert Codes. And it was season 13, episode 5. And it was all about the Blythe geoglyphs. And I was, it was just weird, the timing, it was kind of synchronistic. And I was just so excited to go. But, you can't. I have gone in the summer before, but I waited until the fall before I went. And actually, I had planned this trip to go to Lake Havasu So we went to both sets of intaglios on the way there and both sets on the way back. And then, like a year later, okay, the date was, it was like May 2019. So it was like May or June 2019. So like a year later. So this is like a while ago that it happened. But a year later, I did it again. And I planned another trip, this time to Grapevine Canyon and back. And we looked at the intaglios on the way there and the way back from that trip too. And also Topak Maze. So there was that synchronistic thing happening. And then actually the intaglios themselves, one of the sets of Blythe Intaglios, they're called the Giants. That's literally what they're called. So I'm looking for giants. And then the other set of intaglios has Kachinas. And there is a giant six-toed foot. It's not a print. It's an intaglio of a giant six-toed foot. And it's somehow like connected to these Kachinas. And then, well, I have a lot to go into those intaglios because I've sort of seen some things in there and I want to show them with photos. But because they have so many photos and like this has happened a long time ago and I wasn't staying current with making videos, I'm kind of going back in time and it's not as fresh in my mind as it was when it happened. So I'm kind of grouping them all together. And the other thing is they're a little bit difficult to see from the ground, as you'll see. But I'm just sharing some of my pictures, which are really amazing of the area. The site is amazing and breathtaking, and the mountains there. And that's also, after doing that trip, the first trip, I did more research and looked into the research of Figueroa, is his last name, Alfredo Figueroa. And he did a lot of research in trying to say that that was made by the Aztecs and that Aztlan is right there. There's a few places along the Colorado River where it's said to be, and I guess there used to be an island that was destroyed near Blythe. And, he points out all of these signs in the mountains there, they're called the Big Maria Mountains. And I find that interesting. And I tried to look up why they were called the Big Maria Mountains. Well, yes, there are some Little Maria Mountains. But when I was first hearing the Big Maria, I'm like thinking to myself, okay, well, how big was Maria? Was she a giant? And who was Big Maria? And was she a giant, So anyways, these giants are located underneath Big Maria Mountains, and they're not real tall mountains. I think they go up to like 2,000 feet, but they're very cool mountains. The way the light coming through, it's just so beautiful there. And then to think, the Colorado River is like right there nearby, it's just a very beautiful location for sure. And it's just got that feeling of very ancient old time, like an echo in time. But it's now silent. That's hard to explain. I just wanted to bring up a point about this location, the Colorado Desert and Southern California, like the Salton Sea and Joshua Tree, all the way up into Nevada. All these areas used to have a lot of fresh water, and they would have been really the best place to be during the Ice Age. And there's a lot of evidence in these areas of some ancient giants And that's what I'm sort of, it just found it strange that I'm looking for giants, and then I found these giant intaglios, and I'm looking for Bigfoot prints and Bigfoot and thinking they might be the same, and then seeing this giant six-toed footprint and six toes. We'll go into that, how that as pretty much represents giants, six toes and six fingers. And then on top of it, just the kachinas. And it wasn't until I got home. Well, I don't know if I should get into it, but I did find a creature from Egypt, Thoth, in the intaglios too. But I want to, like I said, separate those for another episode and get back to these giants. Now, a lot of these intaglios, it looks like they represent themselves as fishermen. And one of them has a penis. And the Blythe Intaglios Now and Then. The first picture, 1932, and the next one is 1982, when the fencing was installed. Says the Blythe Intaglio site is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is one of the most well-known geoglyph sites in the country. The anthropomorph seen here is 171 feet tall. After the intaglios were photographed in 1932, they sustained devastating damage from off-highway vehicles whose tracks are clearly left visible in the 1982 photograph. Protective fencing was not installed until 1974. Animal and spiral figures. Native American oral histories mention mythological creatures that may be represented in the figures you see here. Their stories mention the mountain lion who changes into a person and helps the creator with the earth. Some non-Native Americans believe the figure represents a horse, which would date the site to post-Spanish visitation of the area. The animal figure is oriented northwest-southwest, with its head pointing towards the northwest. It measures 54.1 feet from head to tail, and its body 7.5 feet wide. Its legs measure 26.2 feet long, and at the end of each leg is a small half circle, interpreted to possibly represent a paw or a hoof. Below the animal figure is an elaborate spiral figure. It measures 23 feet in length and is oriented northwest to southwest and has a maximum width of 8.8 feet. One interpretation is that the figure represents a coiled snake. Is the mountain lion battling a snake? So if you look up BLM, they will tell you that these were made 450 to 2,000 years ago. And then right there from the head archaeologists themselves in these little plaques that are located there, they say, they say something about, they give credit to a theory that this horse-looking creature, animal, proves that they would have had to have been made after, Columbus brought the horses to the United States, which is ridiculous because it doesn't take a lot of research. I realized they didn't have the internet back then, but maybe they didn't think that the general public would ever have it either or something, because it's real easy to find out that there were plenty of horses and stuff in the United States or North America in prehistoric times. Now, I saved this group of pictures because something happened in them that has never happened before. Well, it happened one other time with my camera. Now, these pictures, it happened with my phone camera and never happened before, never happened again until it happened again when I was taking some pictures at Topak Maze. And that is these blue lines, sometimes going vertical and sometimes going horizontal. And then after the Topak Maze, it never happened again. And since then, I've gotten a new phone, but the camera never got blue lines in it again. It only happened on those 2 occasions. And I just think it's really strange, the blue lines, what they could possibly mean. And if you'll notice on some of them, you can see that the lines are going up in front of and behind the clouds and stuff. It's very strange. It's almost sort of dimensional looking or something. But I just thought I'd point it out because it seems very strange to have happened in such, strange and interesting places. So the Intaglios are an amazing place to go and a wonderful part of ancient North American history and culture, and possibly another link to the actual giants. These are they should be world renowned, but nobody knows about them. I really don't know if the reason that they're kept secret is because it seems the more people talk about them, the more people will come to vandalize them. And that's most unfortunate. I'm sorry that there are young people that way who are obviously raised by older people the wrong way, creating a society of closed-mindedness. And just please don't curse yourself. Don't destroy things on sacred land and stuff like that. That's bad. That's bad karma, and you don't want that on yourself or anybody that you happen to care about in your life. Well, anyways, I'm sorry for the negative side to this whole Intaglio thing, but on one hand, I'm like, I really am excited about posting it and posting the things I learned. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking, if anybody were to dare use my videos to go find these locations and do things, I wouldn't be okay with that. So, I'm just making sure to let everybody know what will happen if they do that. Be cursed. So go somewhere else, do something else. Try to be more constructive. There's nothing worse than a rebel with no cause. Find a cause, All right. Well, enough about that, really, seriously, honestly. These are just amazing places in the world that we have here, and they're so curious. They just raise so many curious mystery, thoughts about what they could possibly be or how old they are or who made them and stuff. And it's all about putting the pieces together. And we can't do that if the pieces are getting destroyed intentionally by the dregs of society. Don't be one of those people, please. All right. Well, thanks for listening. And I'm going to be posting more about the other set of intaglios. And I have a lot to say about it.